Rejected. In the year 2000, Netflix was running out of money. It had fewer than 300,000 subscribers. It was losing millions every year. And it was competing against a company that seemed untouchable. Blockbuster had over 9,000 stores, more than 60 million customers, and billions in annual revenue. Netflix had envelopes and hope. So its founders did something that most startups never do. They offered to sell. They flew to Dallas. They walked into Blockbuster's headquarters, and they offered to sell Netflix for $50 million. Blockbuster executives listened. Then they declined. Some reports say they didn't take it seriously. Others say they saw no long-term value in DVD by mail. Either way, the answer was clear. No. Today, Netflix generates over $33 billion in annual revenue. It operates in more than 190 countries. It serves over 260 million paying subscribers worldwide. And it fundamentally changed how the world watches entertainment. But none of that was guaranteed. Because at one point, Netflix was close to disappearing. This is the story of the man who was rejected before building Netflix. A different kind of founder. Reed Hastings didn't grow up dreaming about Hollywood. He wasn't raised around movie studios. He wasn't obsessed with film. He was analytical, disciplined, quietly ambitious. Born in 1960 in Boston, Hastings grew up in a structured environment. After graduating from Bowdoin College, he earned a master's degree in computer science from Stanford University. But before becoming a tech entrepreneur, he made a decision that few future CEOs make. He joined the Peace Corps. For 2 years, he taught mathematics in Swaziland. No luxury, no corporate offices, no Silicon Valley, just classrooms. That experience shaped something inside him. Later, he would build Netflix around a radical internal philosophy: freedom and responsibility. Not control, not micromanagement, but trust. That culture would later become famous in Silicon Valley. But at that time, Hastings was simply trying to build something meaningful. The first win. Before Netflix, Hastings founded a company called Pure Software. It wasn't glamorous. It built debugging tools for programmers. But it grew quickly. By the mid-1990s, Pure Software was generating serious revenue. In 1997, after merging with Atria Software, it was acquired in a deal valued at roughly $750 million. Hastings walked away wealthy, but something bothered him. He didn't enjoy running a large, bureaucratic company. He enjoyed building, solving, experimenting. So instead of retiring, he started looking for his next idea. He didn't know it yet, but frustration was about to become opportunity. The $40 problem. There's a story often told about Netflix's origin. Reed Hastings rented Apollo 13 from Blockbuster. He returned it late. The late fee was $40. Whether that exact number was precise or slightly exaggerated doesn't matter. What mattered was the feeling. Blockbuster dominated the 1990s. Its business model relied heavily on late fees. In some years, late fees generated hundreds of millions of dollars. Customers tolerated it because they had no alternative. But Hastings saw something different. DVDs were smaller than VHS tapes, lighter, easier to ship, and the internet was growing. Slowly, but steadily. What if movies didn't require a store? What if there were no due dates? What if convenience replaced punishment? In 1997, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph founded Netflix. It started as a simple website. Customers could order DVDs online. They arrived in red envelopes. When finished, you mailed them back. No late fees. That was the promise. The underdog. In the beginning, Netflix was fragile. The company launched officially in 1998. At that time, Amazon was still young. E-commerce was barely trusted. Broadband penetration was low. Streaming was impossible. Netflix wasn't competing with another startup. It was competing with a giant. Blockbuster had brand power, physical presence, advertising muscle. Netflix had logistics and belief. By 1999, Netflix introduced its subscription model. Unlimited rentals, flat monthly price, no penalties. That decision changed everything. It created predictable revenue. It forced the company to prioritize customer satisfaction. But it also meant Netflix couldn't rely on fines to boost margins. It had to be better, and survival was still uncertain. The crash. In 2000, the dot-com bubble burst. Investors fled tech. Startups collapsed. Capital disappeared. Netflix was losing money. In 2001, the company posted losses of over $38 million. It had fewer than 600,000 subscribers. It was burning cash. That's when Hastings and Randolph flew to Dallas. The $50 million offer. Blockbuster said no. That meeting became symbolic. But at that time, it was humiliating. Netflix was small. Blockbuster was confident. But something changed in Hastings after that rejection. He stopped thinking about partnership and started thinking about domination. Survival mode. Netflix tightened operations. It optimized distribution centers. It reduced shipping times. It refined algorithms. Instead of copying Blockbuster, Netflix leaned into its strengths. Data, systems, software. In 2002, Netflix went public. IPO price, $15 per share. Capital raised, roughly $82 million. Subscribers, around 600,000. Still small, but growing. Slowly, steadily. And then came the next leap. Data as a weapon. Unlike traditional media companies, Netflix measured everything. Ratings, genres, completion rates, search behavior. In 2006, Netflix launched the Netflix Prize. $1 million to anyone who could improve its recommendation algorithm by 10%. This wasn't marketing. It was vision. Reed Hastings believed personalization would define the future of entertainment. While competitors focused on storefronts, Netflix focused on prediction, the streaming risk. In 2007, Netflix introduced streaming. It was experimental, limited catalog, lower quality, slow speeds. But Hastings believed physical media would disappear. Blockbuster doubled down on stores. Netflix bet on bandwidth. At first, streaming was a supplement. Then it became the core. By 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Netflix had survived, but survival wasn't enough. The QWIKSTER collapse. In 2011, Netflix made a major mistake. It announced that DVD and streaming services would separate. The DVD division would be renamed QWIKSTER. Customers were confused, angry. Netflix lost around 800,000 subscribers. Its stock fell nearly 75%, from around $300 per share to under $80. Analysts declared it over. Again, but Hastings did something unusual. He admitted the mistake publicly. He reversed the decision. He absorbed the criticism, and Netflix stabilized. That crisis proved something critical. Netflix could survive massive errors because its foundation was strong. Becoming a studio. In 2013, Netflix released House of Cards. It wasn't just a show. It was a signal. Netflix wasn't going to depend entirely on Hollywood studios. It would become one. Using data, Netflix identified audience demand for political drama. It committed to full seasons up front. No pilot testing. No hesitation. It worked. Then came Orange is the New Black, Stranger Things, The Crown, Original content spending surged. By 2018, Netflix was spending over $12 billion annually on content. By the early 2020s, that number approached $17 billion. The company was no longer just distributing content. It was shaping culture, global dominance. By 2020, during the pandemic, Netflix experienced explosive growth. Nearly 36 million new subscribers joined in a single year. Streaming became essential. By 2023, over 260 million subscribers, over $33 billion in revenue, presence in over 190 countries, content produced in dozens of languages. Netflix wasn't just American anymore. It was global. Squid Game, Money Heist, Dark. Stories from around the world reached global audiences. Blockbuster had stores. Netflix had reach. The new battlefield. But dominance doesn't mean safety. Disney launched Disney Plus. Warner launched Max. Amazon expanded Prime Video. Apple entered streaming. Competition intensified. Growth slowed in 2022. Netflix lost subscribers for the first time in a decade. Its stock dropped sharply again. The company introduced ad-supported tiers, password-sharing crackdowns, stricter cost discipline, and once again, it adapted. The irony: in 2000, Netflix was worth $50 million. Blockbuster rejected it. In 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Today, only one Blockbuster store remains open. Netflix continues evolving. The company that laughed is now history. Legacy. Reed Hastings was rejected. He was nearly bankrupt. He made mistakes. He lost billions in market value. He faced giants. But he didn't quit. He adapted. He pivoted. He endured. Behind Netflix, there was doubt. Behind the logo, there was risk. Behind the empire, there was a room in Dallas. And a rejection that changed everything. Subscribe to discover what's really behind the logo.